And now for the reason that we all made our way in the cold this morning. Friends of Noise aims to provide access to safe and productive spaces for all age concerts, focused arts education, and leadership opportunities for youth. We have 3 folks from this amazing organization here this morning to tell us more. So please welcome Andre's first up, right?
Thank you, Cecilia. This is really an amazing opportunity. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for once again braving the harsh winter. I guess George R. Martin wasn't kidding when he said winter was coming. Once again, my name is Andre Middleton, and I'm one of the co-chairs, board of directors of Friends of Noise. I almost forgot our name for a second there. That was so strange. So first of all, who here remembers their first concert? Let me get a show of hands. Great. Was it in like a big stadium like Memorial Coliseum? For me, it was Tesla and Def Leppard that I saw over here. But my first real concert was actually at a small hole in the wall called the Cat Club, where I saw Fishbone. It was back in New York City in 1985, and my parents actually snuck me in because I wasn't old enough to go to concerts yet. It took me another 2 years before I actually saw Fishbone again at what was now the Roseland, but back then it was a Starry Night. And I had that fake ID, and that's how I got in to see that show. They opened for, it was Fishbone, and I want to say Murphy's Law, and it was an amazing show. So more or less, basically, live music has been a big part of my life since I was old enough to enjoy live music. I think it's really important to think about how much impact live music has on people. When I got into the scene, I went and saw everything I could see. I went to Satyricon, I went to La Luna, I went to Meow Meow, I went to the Warehouse, and I just loved everything I get my hands on. But right now, one of the things that brought us together was that I was offered an opportunity to put on a music workshop for the Regional Arts and Culture Council called The Happening 2015, I guess it was that year. And one of the things that we all talked about was the dearth of all-age music spaces here in Portland. I think Backspace might have closed down a couple of months prior to this event. And we're like, gosh, what do we have to do to get an all-age space here in town? So it made us think about, why is live music out of the reach of young people? Most young people have to wait until they're 21 years old to actually see live music in the context of seeing with friends and family. Well, the big reason is because venues want to sell alcohol, and that's their primary driver that brings in a lot more income than just ticket sales. Because if you think about it, ticket sales are most likely going to the band. So what's going to really, so if you think about it, it's not economically feasible to really want to focus on young people, because obviously they can buy alcohol. I mean, I like alcohol as much as the next person, but kids can't buy it. So we got to make sure we keep that separately. So tossing rising rents and warehouse spaces that are being developed seemingly overnight. And it's not surprising to see why all-age music and art spaces are disappearing. So after this conference, several attendees started meeting together, and we just started talking about what we could start to do. Several, like I said, representatives from My Voice Music, Rock Roll Camp for Girls, RAC, X-Ray FM, KBOO, the Rosewood Initiative, Rock Roll Camp for Girls, started organizing around the idea of creating such a space where alcohol sales was not the driving purpose for people going there, but it was to see the music, completely sober and completely enjoying it in concert together. Well, our first step that we did was we created basically we did a needs assessment. What's lacking? We wanted to make sure we didn't want to repeat what other people were doing. We want to duplicate other services. So we said to ourselves, what can we do to get information? So we created a survey. We made a Google Doc, put it out on Facebook. We got about 400 responses within a couple of weeks. People are really interested in this. So then we started holding youth engagement meetings at local libraries. 30 kids came to our first meeting, and we still have a core group of kids that still work with us today, but I'm sure that Becky will talk about that later. So we all figured out that, for starters, getting a brick and mortar building was not probably in the cards during the first year. So what we decided to do is put on pop-up concerts instead, with the intent of having these concerts be in different neighborhoods. Our first one was in St. John's. We've done some in Southeast and Northeast. The idea is, how can we make this meet kids where they already are, as opposed to trying to get them to come to us? On top of that, it helped us build our brand. We had a poll about our name, and we just thought of ways that we can engage with young people to have them really think about what was making this really important. So I'm going to go to some of the pictures here, and it might be hard to see, but these are some of the whiteboards that we started off with, and another whiteboard. So I'm going to go back to the first page, which goes into our first steps. And maybe, there we go. So like I said, a needs assessment. Next thing we did was we actually started assembling the package to develop our 501c3. And as we all learned, there's a lot of information that you need for that. So that was a pretty big deal. In addition to thinking about these pop-up concerts, we also wanted to be a resource to support all-age music. Even if we didn't have a space, there are other spaces in town that need our support, whether it's in our info shop or a smart collective. So we wanted to make sure that kids could find local all-age shows that were already happening. Our goal was to build something a little more centralized, a little bigger. So next up, in October of 2015, was a huge milestone for our coalition. We took a road trip up to Seattle to go visit the Youngstown Arts and Cultural Center and the Vert Project. The Vert Project hosts all-age concerts as well as classes in music production and venue management. They teach everything from sound engineering to screen printing, computer design, sound recording, lights. Basically, they create volunteers who are willing to work to keep the venue going. And so far, it's really, really working for them. We also went to a place called the Youngstown Arts and Cultural Center, and the sweet thing about that place is that they create they converted an old school building into housing upstairs, but it became an arts and cultural venue on the ground floor, where they basically rented out office space to different arts organizations that were providing services to the community. This space was literally an oasis in an otherwise cultural desert in an underserved part of the Delridge neighborhood up there in Seattle. They host everything from dance classes, poetry slams, theater, as well as live concerts as well. I had attended both institutions when I lived in Seattle, and I thought that a hybrid of those two places, the Vert Project and Youngstown, could work here for us here in Portland. So after we got back in town, we registered with the state for our B Corp, received our tax ID number, and therefore we applied for our first grant from the Multnomah County Cultural Commission. After we got back, we had the honor of meeting a guy named James Klebus, and he was one of the founders of Youngstown. And we have to thank Carrie Clark, who may or may not be here today from Young Audiences, but he introduced us and actually hosted us in their offices over on Southwest 12th, and just was a great conversation, gave us some really sound advice. A couple of things that were super important was to try and empower youth at every opportunity. It's our aspiration that this place becomes a youth-led organization. They might still need adults to sign checks and sign contracts, but it's our aspiration that young people are the ones who are deciding what classes are being taught, what bands are playing, and what's the direction that this place goes into. The other thing he said, that we need to document everything, every article, every event, just everything. Thank God for the cloud, because there's already so much information that we have about Friends of Noise, and we're really thrilled to think that more people are finding us every day. So our newly formed board, which is myself, Rebecca, Gina, Corey, Aaron, and now Bim's in there somewhere. Hey, Bim. We went about and started applying for grants. Like I said, we already got one. And that first grant from the Multnomah County Cultural Commission was our big break. So we put on 4 concerts last year. Actually 3. We've got one more lined up in January. But our first concert was up in St. John's at a place called the Los Prados Event Hall, where they do quinceañeras and graduations and judo classes. And it was way, way up in North Portland. I mean, literally past St. John's. And it was a great time. We had over 200 people showed up. We had 2 young bands and then 2 adult bands play. Doodoo Funk All-Stars really blessed us with their presence. Hector, unfortunately, is sick today, couldn't make it, but he sang and opened up. And then we had Neo Geo from the Future Collective play as well. It was a great event. We had space for tables, so we had MITS, Music in the Schools, and Rockwell Camp for Girls, and My Voice Music, and the Bus Project, and Outdoor School. So that's another thing we hope to do is how do we find community partners that can participate by, if we can draw kids, they can connect with kids. So that's something that we really want to keep on doing. So once things really got going, we were blessed in that summer to do something with PDX Pop Now. They hosted 3 of our bands over the course of 2 days. And one of those bands was the music that was playing earlier, a band called The Scribes, some great young people. And then after that, we had a great show at Mississippi Studios with Exploding Into Colors. Loved them, a lot of support from them as well. So basically, we're just starting to grow. And we're entering the new year with, already got 1 grant again. We're going to do an emo pop music festival sometime this summer, and more concerts. And we're hopefully going to have basically a resource committee that'll start taking care of the day-to-day stuff so that we can start working on the next phase, which will be trying to get a building, trying to get a space. I might have a slide. And so this is our Facebook page. We've got close to 865 likes now, getting close to 1,000. The first person that gets to 1,000 gets a free T-shirt. So everybody log on right now and get on that. Then we developed a web page, and the web page is going to be a really great resource, not to let people know what we're doing, but we're also adding a calendar to the web page that'll be available for all age shows and venues to aggregate all their events in one location. In the last year, I've had several people come to me, especially during the holidays and during the summer, hey, I got my kids in town, or I've got people over. Is there any all-age events I could get my kids to go to? And we're hoping that this could be a resource to let people know, hey, yes, these are safe spaces, and not that we're necessarily endorsing them, but we're saying, hey, there's a place where all this information can be aggregated. So next up, here are some of the partners that we've worked with over the course of the last year. Like I said, Music in the Schools, PDX Pop Now, My Voice Music, Rockaway Camp for Girls, The Bus Project, Apano is a new one, the Rosewood Initiative, and PDX Spotlight. So next steps. We need a building, and we're hoping to connect with the folks at PDC or the city or private individuals that may know of spaces and resources. Next week, we're going to be meeting with Commissioner Nick Fish to talk about some of the ideas that he has regarding all ages and art spaces. So hopefully that'll become a resource. And we've heard from several people about how our mission and our goals align with some of the ideas he's been working on for the last year. I know that when Town Storage closed up at the east end of the Burnside Bridge, that was a bit of a call to arms for a lot of people in the arts community as so many of these art spaces disappear. But really for young people, they've been disappearing for a lot longer. So that's one reason why we want to put more energy into this effort. So what's next for us? Well, today was a great opportunity that we couldn't pass up. Once again, thanks to Creative Morning for hosting us. We're really hoping that we can call on all of you to become allies, to become resources for this effort. Networking is going to be a big part of what we do next year. Another great thing that we have to be thankful for is we've got some friends over at the TVA Architects. They've assured us that if we can find a building, and if we can find the partners that we plan on having in that building, that they can help us design a space and get that building turned into a reality. So that's one reason why it's important for us to work with community-based arts organizations that will be partners so that we know how much space do they need, what kind of equipment will they have to store, and what kind of programming will they put there. So that's another really big thing we're looking out for. Next thing up, we're going to need some big donors and hopefully some foundational support. And the best way of doing that is to get letters of interest and letters of support from people just like yourselves and people who are even not in this room yet. So networking is going to be a big part of us, what we do for the next year. It's our hope that a significant number of you will pledge your support and maybe even write us a letter in some sort to say how you also believe in this effort. I also want to make sure that I let you know that we really want the space to be as inclusive as it can possibly be, which is one reason why from day one, it's always been our intent to try and get the space into East County. East County is growing by leaps and bounds, not just due to gentrification, but due to that's always been where people of color, who are new to our area, go to first because it's the most affordable. And it makes sense to put a resource like this in what is really a cultural desert between Mall 205 and Gresham. There's not too many movie theaters or music spaces. It's just, old strip malls and, ranch housing, which is great. But with all the kids moving there, we've got to create a mecca. We've got to create a place where they can go and share their stories, share their narratives, share their cultures, and share it with each other. And that's a really, really big reason why we want to do it out in East County. Too many young people of color and of modest means won't leave the safety of their neighborhoods to go to downtown Portland anymore. When we were up in Seattle and we were interviewing the folks who run the Vert Project, we asked them, knowing then what you know now, what you have done differently. And they said instead of putting the Vert Club at the Seattle Center, they would have rather put it down in Columbia City or Seward Park. It's important to put places like this where kids are. So that's one reason why we want to make sure that we focus our energy and our intent in putting this in East County. I have no doubt that everyone in this room has benefited from the opportunities of having arts and culture be a big part of their lives and learning how to express themselves creatively. We have an opportunity and possibly a slim chance to create a sanctuary and an oasis for the kids and their families where their culture and their heritage will be shared in big and small ways. We want to create a space where someone will be safe no matter if they are a him or her or a they. It's important that we make sure the space is built for everybody from day one. Imagine a space where community engagement by the symphony or by artist repertory theater or by the ballet can take place within their community as opposed to them having to always get on buses to go downtown. I think this can be a powerful way of creating a next generation of artists, of thinkers, and people who think outside the box and are willing to use creativity to solve the problems that we're going to be facing in the next decade. Imagine national acts sharing the stage with our area's youth. I was told by a longtime promoter recently that there are tons of bands who would rather forego their regular rate of pay to play in front of an all-age, sober audience. And I think that between the Bay Area, Seattle, there are bands that are literally flying over us to go to Seattle that aren't stopping here. And we want to create a space where they can feel welcome. So like I said, we don't think people should have to wait until they're old enough to drink to see live bands and feel the magic of singing along with hundreds of their new best friends. With your help and advocacy, we're going to do this. Thank you for joining us today. And next up is the incomparable Gina Altamura. Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm going to start actually passing out some clipboards. Please send us your email. Tell us if you connect with young people. And if you have any resources you'd like to share with us, feel free to say yes.
Hi. Okay. Gonna just go into there, I think. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so I just wanted to get into a little bit of the kind of nitty-gritty of how we've been putting on these shows that we've done over this past year and what it's been like to work directly with the young people that we've been able to get into our fold here at Friends of Noise. And it's been just such a wonderful adventure to basically evolve this organization over the past year from just a group of us that were essentially concerned community members coming together to talk about possibilities and options to what it's become in the last year, which is truly a youth-led organization that is putting on concerts all over the city. And as Andre touched on, we devised a pop-up model for our shows where we're coming into different neighborhoods and presenting concerts of different genres, and aiming for as much diversity and inclusion in our programming as we possibly can. And that is primarily a matter of showcasing and creating opportunities for youth musicians to perform when they haven't really had much previously. So, for example, our launch party was a hip-hop show in St. John's, and it was an even mix of youth MCs and adult MCs and R&B and funk musicians. And it was such a cool experience towards the end of that party in St. John's to see the cypher. And the cypher, for those not familiar in hip-hop culture, is the moment towards the end of the show, which is sort of like the grand finale where all of the MCs come together and one after the other hop up and freestyle together. There's kind of a call and response element and kind of a friendly rap battle that happens. And this was amazing because you got to see teenage MCs kind of, challenging and engaging with adult MCs. And it was such a cool, impromptu, organic moment of mentorship that you really only get in the context of a live show like that. And it was actually, so our friend Neo Geo from the Futuro Collective, an artist who's played here, countless times, was the one who kind of, called all of the teens up and was like, come on, cypher, let's freestyle together. It was just amazing. So, so that was just an example of that kind of organic mentorship that happens. We were also invited by PDX Pop Now to open the festival each day with a block of youth programming, some of which you saw on the video. And that was truly a youth-led effort from start to finish. We had our youth committee members pick out the bands to play. It was many of their friends. In fact, in the scribes, it's several of our youth volunteers that were playing live. And several of our youth members come from an organization called Music in the Schools, which is an organization that I run that essentially books benefit concerts to support Portland Public School music programs. And these students have learned the ropes of show promotion and production from start to finish, so booking and social media and every aspect of the show. So they've taken their show production knowledge from those years and brought it to Friends of Noise. And I'm very excited about my role at Friends of Noise as essentially doing music industry 101 for teens. And in addition to that music industry education and the opportunity to showcase and advocate for youth performer opportunities, we're also trying to bring in, as much as we can, specialized creatives in other disciplines to work with our youth. So for example, we have our resident AV wizard, David Barth from Hollywood Lights, who is just amazing, and he's been showing our students the basics of lighting design. He's also been showing them all of the details of audio and video recording of concerts. So most of the images that you see projected and all of the video that you saw earlier are all thanks to him and what he's been showing our students, as well as gear from Portland Community Media, thanks to Andre. And in addition to that, we have students from the Live Set program, which is a free sound engineering class for teens that is put on by young audiences. And we have their students running the soundboard at a lot of our events, which has also been amazing. So, and we're really fortunate to have a couple of graphic designers in our fold, two of the best in the city, Tom O'Toole and Corbin Lamont, put together our logo that you kind of saw projected. That was also a collaborative effort with our students. They put together a Pinterest board where all of the kiddos and as well as all of our committee basically posted, our ideas, our aesthetic vision. There was a lot of commenting between everybody, and what was forged out of that process was our logo and a whole scheme of kind of visual branding. And one of the most design-minded students, high school students that we had, was this gal, Sophia, from St. Mary's Academy, and she hand-painted that backdrop back there, which has become our photo booth for all of our events. She just went to town. It was totally her idea, and she basically established like a red carpet kind of photo booth for our launch party, and it was just the best. And we had a crazy GIF photo booth during PDX Pop Now using that, which was a big hit. And so anyway, we encourage you on your way out, take a photo in front of it, tag Friends of Noise on Instagram. We would love that. It's kind of become our little main photo backdrop. So yeah, and I guess I would just want to end by talking about our most recent show this past fall with Explode Into Colors. I don't know how many are familiar, but they were a wonderful all-female art rock band, kind of legendary in town around like 2009 or so, before they split up. And anyway, they decided to reunite for just 2 shows at Mississippi Studios back in October. One was a benefit for us, which was amazing, and another one was a benefit for The Smell, which is a very seminal kind of DIY punk all-ages venue down in LA. And they spoke very eloquently at the show about how all ages and DIY spaces were just so important to them growing up, and how the lack of those spaces in today's Portland music community is really, to the detriment of musicians and young people in town. So the funds that we raised from that show with them are going to be huge for us as we go into our next year of live concert programming and educational workshop programming in 2017. And it was just such an incredible, truly all ages event. I mean, we had high school and college kids there. We had Portland musicians, industry folk, and we also had young families, so many little teeny toddlers with, big headphones on their parents' shoulders in the crowd. And it was amazing to see that and look around and be like, wow, this is probably a handful of kids' first concert ever. And that's so emotionally powerful for us. And that's just an experience that we want to bring to as many people in Portland as we possibly can, is to be everybody's first show. So, yeah. Oh. And next up is the amazing Becky Miller to talk further about mentorship and awesomeness.
Thank you. I just want to give a shout out to everyone who has helped out Friends of Noise so far, to Andre, to Gina, to Bim, to Aaron, to Corey. It's been a really exciting ride in 2015 and 2016, and a lot of passion coming together to talk about how we get more young people involved in music. Experiencing music, producing shows. There are a lot of us who had the chance to do that while we were teenagers, and some of us that really didn't think that we could pick up an instrument until we were 28 years old. And so I learned to play guitar a little bit later on in my life, and I wish I had all of that time from ages 12 to 17 or 18 to practice guitar, but I had to do it later on in my life. But I want to just punctuate a little bit about what Andre and Gina have already talked about with youth engagement. So one of our most important tasks and ongoing focus of our work is to really keep young people at the conversation, in the conversation at the table on all ages music, and to imagine and produce shows with us, and to make sure that we're doing this side by side. So youth mentorship is really allowing space and voice for young people to experience leadership in the arts. And from our very intention, or at the very beginning, it's our intention to see Friends of Noise become more youth-led as we move on. So it can be a little confusing on how to engage youth. I don't know if you guys are friends with any teenagers, or have ever talked to teenagers about getting their friends to come to stuff. But it's kind of essentially a game of telephone where one teenager tells another one about a show, and then maybe a week later if someone else that they know that they didn't tell the show about the show comes to tell them about the show. It's like it has to kind of go around the school and then come back, and then you're pretty sure that some students are going to show up. So at the beginning, I mean, we really were reaching out to people with the hopes that people would show up. And like we said at our first meeting, we were hoping to get 5 kids. We got 30. And that was amazing. So we knew that this was a really important endeavor. We created a survey. We reached out to as many youth organizations as we knew to reach out to. And then we got that many students showing up. We have a core group of students that helps out with each show, and they help. They come to meetings. We try to have meetings every month or so, and I would say that most of the students tend to show up if we've got a show to work on, and so that really is showing us that they want to be engaged in something that is happening. So I wish that Stella Augustine could be with us today. She's one of our core youth assistants, really. She's done so much for us. And if I could describe Stella with one word, it would just be committed. She's been doing so much outreach for us. She is really passionate. She has a show on KBOO, and she hosts all ages music, all ages bands. So she's been a really great outreach for us as well. So she was going to get up and tell us a little bit about what she does with Friends of Noise, but she really just keeps us going, and I think that she is going to be a huge part of really getting our youth committee going this next year, and hopefully having us pass over those 4 shows. So many of the students that we've interacted with so far, and for our St. John's show, for the PX Pop show, and the Mississippi show, come to us, like Andre and Gina said, by Music in the Schools. They come by way of Ethos and KBOO, through Live Set, through Young Audiences, My Voice Music, and the Rosewood Initiative in East Portland. And through this web of students, we've been able to work with young people throughout 3 districts in Portland Public Schools, Park Rose School District, and David Douglas School District. And one thing that we know at Friends of Noise is that there are lots of young people that we haven't met yet. And there are ways of reaching out to kids that we haven't thought about yet. And we've got marginalized kids who might find it hard to get out of their house and get to a show. Maybe there's not something close by, or maybe someone has never even asked them to go to a show. So we want to make sure that we create these opportunities for people, and that we're not just getting to the students that we know, but we're getting to the students that we don't know. So if you have any connections, any ways, any ideas of reaching out to young people that we want to know, please let us know and talk to us. We definitely have those clipboards that are circulating around. You can write down your name, your email address, and we will be in connection with you. So, and we know that we need community at Friends of Noise. So keep talking to us, and please help us do better. And that's why we're here talking to you today. So access to safe and sustainable spaces are needed for young people and folks together, folks of all ages together, so that we can create culture. And this is why our big dream is to open the venue and to have this so we can put shows on a regular basis. And I have 3 things that I want to ask of the community today. The first one is really easy. It's completely free. And it's, I think, something everyone can do today is just be an advocate and attend a show in 2017 and get to know us on social media, get on our mailing list, and just know what we're up to. Number 2, as I said, connect us to your community of young people. And then number 3, if donating is your thing, we're totally not going to argue with that. And we have a square today, actually, if you want to give any donations. We have a donation button on our website, which is friendsofnoise.org. What's that? Oh, you can buy T-shirts as well, which is a great promotional tool. And our funds for 2017 are going to be directed towards putting our shows, of course, but also towards funding our student-led workshops. Thank you so much for having us today. Thank you to Celie and Portland Creative Mornings. Thanks to Holocene and Gina and Yarko for having us. This is really a pleasure. I don't know if you guys want to do a Q&A, if we've got some time left. I think we've got 20 minutes. So you guys want to come up here? Thank you.